Hey guys, it's Téa and I am back with another video, and this video is going to be all about my trip to China that I went on during March break of 2016, and that was definitely a trip of a lifetime, especially considering that I haven't really been outside of Canada a whole lot, so that was super exciting. I remember that I was so nervous to go on the trip. Like, I almost canceled on it because I was so nervous. But I'm so glad that I ended up going. It was the absolute funnest time of my life. Funnest. That is no word. Most fun time ever. So I'm going to be telling you all about that, and I feel like this video might be quite long because I have a decent amount of notes, and obviously it was an 8-day trip, so there's a lot to cover, a lot to talk about. So let's start off with explaining the trip. Basically, this trip was run through my school. My school did a trip every year during March break for any students that wanted to sign up, and I think for the trip to China, there was 20 of us who went, and there was a few chaperones who went as well. And I also have a scrapbook that I made of the trip, so that's kind of what I'm going to be going off of, and my notes as well. So let's start off at the beginning. So the flight to and from China to Canada, whoa, that was confusing, is 13.5 hours. Now, this was one part that I was very nervous about because I had only been on a plane twice before, and that was when I was like 2, so I obviously don't remember that. So I was really nervous about it because I sometimes get motion sick, but thankfully I didn't on the plane. Well, like, I felt sick on the way down, and a little bit on the way up, but that's it. Like, I was fine. So the flight, we obviously had to stand up and walk around a few times because 13.5 hours in one seat is a long time. So I would get up to go to the washroom or to go for a walk around the plane. And it was a giant plane since it was such a long trip, so we could just kind of walk around, stand near the bathrooms, which sounds sad, but like that was the only place to stand, really. I watched a bunch of movies, and in total I only fell asleep for about 2 hours on the way there. So when I got to China, I was very exhausted, and we had a whole day of activities ahead of us. So the first day was a very tiring day. The first city we landed in was Beijing, and obviously there's tons of stuff to do in Beijing, so I'll read you some things that we did. We went to the Summer Palace. Now, this was apparently the palace that the royals stayed in during their summer vacations. I'm not sure if this was like during the ancient times or like currently. I'm not sure. They told us all the history about all these things and palaces and stuff, but I don't remember any of it because it was so much information. The Summer Palace was so beautiful. We saw people in canoes fishing. We saw a huge ship in the water that was floating, and that was entirely made of marble. Like, that's insane. I remember one point when we were standing in like more of a populated area at the Summer Palace, there were these people painting with the water on the ground. They painted like hello, and then they painted it in Chinese, and it was really cool. And then what was very interesting and what I didn't expect at all is that so many of the Beijing residents there, they wanted a picture with me and a bunch of my other friends on the trip because of our skin color and because of my blonde hair. It was really funny because I don't think they see tourists and Americans / Canadians a lot, so they were very surprised to see our colored skin and my blonde hair and blue eyes. Like, I remember a stranger came up to me and she was speaking in Mandarin, and she just started to touch my hair, and it was the weirdest but funniest thing ever. And it was so awkward because I didn't really know how to react. Like, I felt famous almost because I was getting pictures taken with a bunch of strangers and they were speaking a language I don't know, so It was an interesting experience, to say the least. Okay, and that all happened at the Summer Palace, the first place that we went. So the next place that we went, okay, there we go. The next place that we went was the Beijing Zoo, which is a very popular zoo around the world, I'm pretty sure. Like I remember hearing about the Beijing Zoo before we even went, so I thought that was cool. We saw a bunch of animals. We saw white and black tigers, orange and black tigers, and we saw giant pandas, which are so cute. A couple of the next places we went were the Forbidden City and the Temple of Heaven. And those, I kind of can't distinctly remember the differences because they were both temples, just like a bunch of temples, which obviously is so cool. But once you've been to so many temples in China, they all kind of mix together in your head. So yeah, that was very fun, very interesting, and the architecture, so beautiful. Now, one of the next places we went, this isn't all on the same day, by the way, I'm just like talking all about Beijing right now. So one of the next places we went was the Great Wall, obviously, because you can't go to China without visiting the Great Wall. And now, what surprised me the most about the Great Wall, well, I guess it wasn't that surprising, but these stairs are so uneven. It was so incredibly hard to climb. Like, they were these pillars, and we were only allowed to go up to, I think, the 10th pillar, and I only made it to maybe the 4th because it was so hard to climb. For me, personally, I wasn't the most fit in the world, so after like a flight of stairs, I had to stop and take a breath, take like a 5-10 minute break and then keep on going because it was just so tiring. And what I thought was interesting too is that there were shops along the wall. And I always wondered, like, how do the workers of these shops get to the shops? Like, do they have to climb the Great Wall every single time they go to work to get to the shops? Like, that's crazy. And there was a shop at the bottom of the wall, which is where I bought my t-shirt because I didn't reach any of the shops on the wall because it was really hard. So I bought a t-shirt from the Great Wall. Here's a picture of it. What was interesting too is that since obviously there was a language barrier there, when we were asking about the prices of the shirts and the objects in the store, they had a calculator with them and they punched in the price on that, which is a very smart idea because obviously we don't know each other's languages very well, so that was a good way to communicate. And we did learn a bit of the numbers in Mandarin, but I totally forget them now. Now, one of the most interesting places that we went, surprisingly, like I didn't think that this would be the most interesting, but the marketplace in Beijing. If you've ever been to a marketplace in China, you know what I'm talking about. It is a very unique experience. So it's basically like a mall, except it has floors and floors and floors. And these stores, they're not really like walk-in stores, they're more like a stand. There isn't really walls, it's just kind of like placed there, and you go in and like explore the items, if that makes any sense at all. I'll try and find a picture of it. So what was very interesting here is that we got to bargain for the price of the thing we want. So it was kind of scary at the same time because obviously the salespeople wanted us to pay a higher price while we were trying to bargain for a lower one. And the first thing I purchased was on accident. I bought a backpack. Let me show it to you. I use it all the time, which is good. I bought this bag. It's super, super nice. Sorry. Okay. I bought this bag. Now, the price I bought it for was 300 won, or yuan, I forget how it's exactly pronounced. But that isn't a very good deal. It was my first purchase, and I just was kind of scared to bargain. So I bought it for that price, and I should have bargained it lower, but I didn't. Anyways, since I use it a lot, it was worth it. It's all good. Now, I did buy quite a lot at the markets because everything in there was technically fake things, but they were name brand, but like fakes. So they sold them at a decent price, and you could bargain it at a decent price as well. So I bought a few things. Here are some pictures of those. And I remember me and my sister, we eventually came up with a plan to get a lower price. We would say, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have enough money. And we would start to walk away. And then eventually the salesperson would say, wait, it's okay, just pay it at the price that you want. And so we would get to pay it at the price we wanted. So that was our plan. So next we took an overnight train to the city of Xian. Now I had never heard of this city before going to China, but what was interesting about it is that the pollution was very, very high when we went there. So the smell wasn't that great. So the leaders of the trip, they gave us all a mask to wear. So as soon as we stepped off the train, we realized why we needed a mask. The air was so polluted, and basically everyone around us, like all the citizens and stuff, were wearing masks as well. So that was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime experience, wearing a mask basically 24/7. Now, some cool things we did in Xian were we went to this like statue trail. So I totally mixed that up, and we actually did that in Beijing, so please ignore that. My bad. I forget exactly what the name is, but there were just there's basically a bunch of statues on each side, and it was a super long trail, and it was really, really fun. We got a good workout out of it. Basically, this whole trip was a workout. We got to climb on the statues. Well, I'm not sure if we were technically allowed to do that, but we did anyways. We got pictures with them, and it was fun. And then another cool thing we did is we went to the Terracotta Warriors Museum thing. If you don't know what the Terracotta Warriors are, they are basically this like burial site kind of thing that they dug up and basically found a ton of terracotta warrior statues, and they excavated it. I think that's the correct term, but they dug it all out, and now they made a museum around it. Here are some pictures of that. It was just very, very cool. But I remember specifically on that day, I was so tired because obviously the time change is 12 hours of difference. So that's a pretty crazy time change. I remember I was so tired. I was just slugging around, dragging my feet everywhere. It was a tough time, but it was fun though. And I'm pretty sure that there were other things we did in Xian, but those were the things that really stuck out to me. Next, we took a plane to Shanghai, and this was definitely the most extravagant place out of them all. We went to a marketplace in Shanghai. It was a marketplace, but it was also connected to like a food court type thingy. And so when we were there, we went to McDonald's, and obviously, I was so excited to see the difference of McDonald's in China than McDonald's in Canada. And I grabbed a menu and I took it home. So yeah, I'm gonna take pictures of the menu and then show it on the screen. It's so interesting to see like different McDonald's in different places of the world. And it's cool because like they have some of the same stuff. Like obviously the Big Mac is the same, but there were things on here that I've never seen in my life. So it's so, so cool. And they have a pink McFlurry. Like, whoa, why can't we have that? Ooh, okay. So in a marketplace we went to, I think it was in Shanghai, our leaders told us to not go with strangers, which I mean is kind of an obvious thing, but they said that they'll try and trick us and say that there's more items for sale upstairs and to follow them upstairs, but then you'll end up getting kidnapped or something. It was such a crowded place. Me and my friends and my sister were all linking arms because it was so crowded. And then a man actually came up to one of my sister's friends and told her that there's calligraphy things upstairs. And I think that her friend forgot about the warning or something, so she said, okay. And then my sister, she barged into the conversation and said, no, it's okay, and then brought her friend away. Like, that could have been so bad. Oh my gosh, it's so scary to think about. Now, one of the other things we went to was a pearl factory, which is really cool. I got a bracelet from there from my boyfriend. And then we went on the fastest train in the world. That was a very fun experience, like just seeing the speedometer going up and up and up and up. It was so fun. It was like being on a roller coaster. Next, I wanted to talk about the food and the restaurants, because this is definitely one of the first things that people ask when I say I went to China, is the food. Now, the food was actually really good. It was very similar to food here, well, kind of. Like, they had many options that we eat here. Too. There was a lot of noodles, a lot of vegetable fried stuff, rice, and also what was interesting is that they served watermelon as a dessert instead of like other things, instead of like cake and pies and stuff. And also when we went to the restaurants, in the middle of the table they had a turning thing. I forget what the term is, but they had a turning circle in the middle where we put the food and the drinks on and we spun it to get it around to all the people. It was really fun. And I also noticed that in China they had a lot of spicy foods, and like some of the spicy foods were extremely spicy, so somebody would always try one and say, don't eat that, it's so spicy. And so we never would. But I remember that there was one time my sister accidentally ate a super spicy bean, and she said that it was like the spiciest thing she ever had in her life, and she was scared that she was going to get sick because it was so spicy. So I felt really bad, but it was all okay afterwards and stuff. Now, another thing that a lot of people ask about China is the toilets, because if you don't already know, in China and like Asian countries, I'm pretty sure it's like all Asian countries, instead of like a toilet we have here, it's just a hole in the ground. So that was an experience. I'm not going to give any details, but that was an experience. And next I wanted to talk about the living environments and the hotels and stuff. So we stayed in American style hotels. So they had like an American toilet, and it was kind of based in the same way as hotels are here. So that wasn't any different than usual. But what I thought was interesting too is that we got a tour of three different types of homes in China. One was in Beijing, Xian, and Shanghai, I'm pretty sure. And what was so interesting is that the one tour of the house we got, it was a very, very expensive house, but it didn't compare at all to the expensive houses here. It was a lot smaller than they are here. They shared a bathroom with the neighborhood, like the bathroom was outside, kind of like a porta potty thing, and they shared it with the neighborhood. And they didn't get a backyard or a front yard or anything. And the next living environment we saw was an apartment. And this was, honestly, I think it was nicer than the actual house we went to. It was kind of the same size as a regular apartment here. It wasn't really different. We got to ask the people questions about living in China and stuff, and that was a lot of fun. What I also wanted to mention that I thought was really cool is that in Beijing, for the traffic, since the traffic is so insanely busy, they have certain days that you can drive based on your license plate. So if your license plate ends in like a 0, 2, and a 4, that's a guess, I forget by now. But you can only drive on like Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, while license plates ending in numbers like 3, 6, and 9 can only drive on Tuesday and Thursday or something. So we also saw a lot of bikes and motorbikes and stuff, because obviously you couldn't always drive a car every day, which I thought was a very cool way to like regulate the traffic, because there's obviously so many people living in China. Now I think that is all I wanted to cover in the video. Those were all like the super exciting things I remember and stick out in my mind. If you guys have traveled anywhere really cool, make sure to leave that in the comments below, because I love hearing about people's travel stories. It's so interesting to learn about different countries and the ways that they live compared to the way that we live. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to see another travel video like this one, then make sure to give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments below. So I will see you very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.